Hi everyone, I hope you people are doing great. I am Punya Agarwal. I'm ACC affiliate, co-founder of Being ACCA, and your AA and AAA mentor. Today we are going to start with the debrief for your pre-June 25 mock, which is the official ACCA mock that ACCA releases. Now today, in this particular video, I'm going to go through one of the questions from your section A. So this is the case study number 1 from your section A of your pre-June 25 mock. Mind you, before you actually watch this video, I hope that you have done the questions firstly by your own, and then you're watching this video so that you get an idea as to where did you go wrong. If you are watching this video before attempting, I don't think so it will be useful for you, because ultimately you get to know the answer. So it's better that you attempt it first on your own and then listen to my video and understand if there were any doubts or questions related to these questions for you. All right. So let's start from the very first question that we have, the very first case study that we have. All right, let's read the case study. So it says, just a minute. Your firm, Bond and Company, has 8 partners and has been invited by Mr. Smith, the managing director and majority shareholder of Salvation PLC, to accept appointment as the statutory auditor of the company. So basically, your company, who is the auditor, is Bond and Company. All right, you are part of the audit engagement team, for example, and you have been appointed by the Salvation Company. So probably this is the first time that you're doing the audit, since probably there was somebody else who was doing the audit. Now you have been appointed as the stat audit for the company. All right. Now Salvation is a listed company, which is important. Again, whenever we are reading the question, whenever we are reading either section A or section B in audit, it is always good that we highlight all of these key important words, because then we don't have to read every other line again and again. We can just look at the keywords and we'll be good to go, right? So it's a very good habit that you highlight everything important that you come across. All right. And its principal activity is the manufacture and distribution of healthcare products. So they are dealing in healthcare products. All right. The present firm of auditors will not be reappointed for the next year's audit. All right. So this is little cause of concern. I, as an auditor, will be little skeptic over here. Why? Because why? There would be some reason that they are not reappointing the previous year's auditors, right? So as an auditor, who you people would know that ACC's code of conduct, this is actually your prerequisite that you need to fulfill before you actually go on with your audit, because you need to understand the reason why did the previous auditor was not reappointed, or was there any problems with the auditor, which problem hui hogi, some breach of conduct probably, or simply because of XYZ reasons, fees or other resource reasons. So you, as a new auditor, you have to first identify what was the reason that why there was no reappointment for the same taken place. All right. Okay. Your firm has several companies operating in the healthcare sector as clients, including Compassion Company. All right. So you have multiple clients in the same sector. So probably your auditing already knows a lot about the sector, right? Because you're already working with the healthcare clients. So if you come across with another healthcare client, it will be good for you, because you would have the knowledge, the expertise, the knowledge of their reporting, their financial reporting, etc. So you would have an experience in that. Compassion is a large private company, so it's not a listed company, it's a private company, and has been a prominent client of yours for several years. So this has been a prominent client from several years. All right. It is involved in the manufacture and distribution of healthcare products that are often very similar to the products offered by Salvation. So now, as somebody who's reading the question, you should get to know that, okay, probably there is some conflict of interest that can arise, because the products are also same, the industry is also same. And if we as an auditor are auditing both the companies, it can lead to conflict of interest. And probably my Salvation company, my Compassion company, who is my previous auditor, is previous client as well, they might not be very comfortable with it. So you, as an auditor, you have to put some safeguards, right? So whenever you are reading the case study, just do not read it for the sake of reading it. Understand the case study. Right now, I did not just read the case study, I was also understanding that okay, there was, if it is a prominent client, and the products are also very, very similar to the new client, there is kind of a conflict of interest that can happen, right? And similarly, above line, when I read about the reappointment also, I linked it back to whatever I have studied, which is your code of ethics, code of conduct, etc., right? So whenever you are reading, this is again a tip I would want to give for all the section, people who struggle in section A, would be that, guys, please read the case study for actual reading purposes, right? You are able to understand. You're just not reading for the sake of reading, and then you're reading it again. Kabhi kabhar, when we're reading the question, we go blank. We're just reading it, but we're not able to understand, right? So that's fine. That's part and parcel of your practice. But have a firm mind that when you're reading something, you're also understanding, and then you're linking it back to what you have studied before. All right. Okay, so we're done with two paragraphs. Let's read the third one. In addition to statutory audit, Mr. Smith has requested you that your firm assists with Salvation's corporate tax computation fee, for which will be corporation tax fees, for which will be significant. So there are two things over here. You as an auditor, you as a stat auditor, you would know that you cannot provide them corporation tax computation, because when you are providing them computation, basically you are taking out the taxable amount, you're filing the taxes, etc. So in those cases, you are actually probably reviewing your own work when you're doing the audit also, right? So for example, you computed the tax for the year end for the company, and then you'll be auditing that taxable amount also when you're doing a stat audit. So probably there is some self-review thread that can arise, and also a self-interest thread. Why? Because the fees for the same will also be significant. So a red flag again for me. One thing is, I am not allowed to do the computation, tax computation. Another thing is also adding up is my fees for that, which is significant, but we are not provided how significant it is, right? So that's that. All right. The management at Salvation has asked you if your firm would be interested in entering into a formal arrangement to promote their shares to potential investors. Again, as soon as I read this line, my bells in the head should start ringing, that I, as an auditor, cannot promote or cannot behave on behalf of my client, represent my client in any way. So that creates an advocacy threat. All right. So yahan pe we can have an advocacy threat. The firm will be paid commission based on the number of shares they sold. Again, if they are being paid on number of shares they are being that are being sold, probably again this can lead to your self-interest, because as an auditor I would assume, or I would want that my fees increases, right? So as soon, again, if you people are also working on commission basis, for example, you would also want to sell more number of goods so that your commission also increases. Similarly is the case with the auditor as well. The firm will be paid on the basis on the number of shares sold. So probably it is advocacy threat for sure. It is also self-interest threat over here. All right. Mr. Smith has also suggested that a partner from your firm, other than the audit engagement partner of the Salvation, join the board of Salvation as a non-executive director. This is a complete no-no, right? This is a complete no-no. Although it's not the audit engagement partner, but that person has been the employee of your firm and probably would have audited Salvation company as well, so, or would audit in the near future Salvation company, so that can lead to some self review threat. This is a major problem of your issues, ethical issues. All right. Now let us read the very first question that we have. Let's try and answer the question. Okay, identify by clicking on the relevant boxes in the table below whether each of the statements relating to the possible threats to Bond's independence is true or no. So they're asking in regards to the independence of the board. All right, a familiarity threat exists. Okay, so now guys, read the question really well. All right, I'm reading it with you, then we'll analyze. A familiarity threat exists due to Mr. Smith's request for the firm's assistance with Salvation's corporate tax computation. As this is a listed entity, the threat is so significant that no safeguard is possible. See, if I quickly, can I copy this by any chance? Wait. All right. Okay. So this is our question. All right. Now, if I go to the first statement, all right, if I see the first statement, it says a familiarity threat exists. All right. Due to which request for the firm assistance was corporate tax competition. So when we were reading the question, I told you that this cannot happen. Why? Because this is a self-review threat. This is not a familiarity threat. Familiarity threat, though, they cannot be possible because this is a new client of ours. Right? Familiarity threat exists when probably we have worked with the client for a long period of time, or probably we already know the client before, we have friends or family, something. But that's not the case scenario over here, right? So it's not a familiarity threat. But if you read the second line, as this is a listed entity, there is a threat. The threat is so significant that no safeguard is possible. Now, this statement can be true, cannot be true, depending. But of course, your familiarity threat cannot exist. So this is a false statement. All right. Then the next one says an advocacy threat exists. Advocacy threat exists due to Salvation's management offer of a formal arrangement to promote their shares to potential investors. Okay, this is a good statement. This is fine because they're promoting the shares to potential investors. So it is an advocacy threat. The firm can only accept this if the commission from this arrangement is immaterial. No, this is a straight no. This statement, this last statement is wrong, is false. You cannot accept this arrangement irrespective. It is an advocacy threat, that's absolutely fine, but no safeguard can be put in place to minimize this risk, this threat. All right. So that is the reason this is again false. The first statement was fine, but the second statement was not. Now, I have seen a lot of students, what they do is they read the first statement and they, yes, this is fine. Then they do it true, but they do not read the full paragraph. Guys, please understand, please devote ample number of time to read it properly. All right. Yahan pe bhi you would assume the same. So you have to read the full statement carefully. Part of it can be true, part of it can be wrong, which is the case scenario in this case. All right. Next one. A self-interest threat arises if a partner from your firm, other than the audit engagement partner of the Salvation, joins a board of Salvation company as a non-executive director. This can be accepted as Salvation's audit partner will not be involved. No, I just told you when I was reading the question also that although the audit partner will not be involved and there will be some other person than the audit engagement partner who will be involved, still this is a major self-interest plus self-review threat. So you cannot accept, although if you read the first line, this line is absolutely correct. But the second line that they are saying that this can be accepted as Salvation's audit partner is not involved, this is wrong. So the first statement that they are writing is absolutely correct. You can go to true, but the next statement is false. Therefore, you'll go with the false. So the last statement is also false. So all the three statements that you have received are false statements. I hope you people understood each and every one of them really nicely. Let's move to the next question now. All right. Which of the following factors would be relevant to your firm in their decision on whether or not to accept Salvation's audit engagement? So you people already know that when there is a new client for an auditor, auditor reaches auditor first sees all of the preconditions are met or no. So auditor will see some of the preconditions before moving with the engagement. So that is what the question is asking us, that which of the following factors will be relevant to your firm in their decision of whether or not you have to accept, you can accept the client or no. All right. Okay, let's read all of the four. The audit team members might not have the required expertise and skills required to audit this specialized sector. This is a wrong statement. Why? Because when I was reading the question, I told you that they have already have your firm has several companies operating in the healthcare sector. So when you already have clients in that sector, you will have experience, you will have expertise, you will have knowledge, you will have financial statements knowledge, financial reporting knowledge, rules and regulation knowledge, policies knowledge, etc. Right? And that too, the company of yours has been a prominent client from several years. So of course you would have it. So the first statement is absolutely wrong. Second, given the nature of the business, the auditor may not be aware of the financial reporting framework used to prepare for salvation's statement. Now, guys, one thing I want to tell you, if by chance they would not have written this point, given the nature of the business, all right, agar ye nahi hota and they would only write this statement, the auditors may not be aware of the financial reporting framework used to prepare salvation's financial statements, probably we would take this statement. Why? Because you are a new audit, this is a new audit client for you, so you probably are not aware of how they perform the financial reporting, what are their policies, etc., their company specific policies, right? But yahan pe they're saying not because of that, but because of the nature of the business. Nature of the business is the specialized sector that they're working in. But we already have the experience of that. So this is not the correct statement. All right. So this is again understanding each and every point. Why is this not a correct answer? Why this is correct answer is very important. And whenever we are doing section A, I always say students to follow the elimination approach. यहाँ पे भी मैंने बोला first नहीं है, second नहीं है, third देखते हैं, fourth देखते हैं, right? Bond and company will have to inquire from Salvation's management and the outgoing auditor that the reasons behind not reappointing this when I was reading the question, this thing I told you that they will be doing it, so because this is your prerequisite. If you people have revised knowledge-based questions, there is a question known as prerequisite or preconditions before accepting the audit engagement. This is a part of that, but that if there was a auditor previously, you have to talk to him that what was the reason that why they are not being reappointed. You also need to talk with management. Was there any problem with the auditor? You also need to talk to the auditor also that what was the reason? Was their management not compliant? Was management doing any frauds or errors, etc.? So again, that this is a prerequisite and you have to consider this statement. All right. So this will be your correct answer. Let's see the fourth one as well. The audit fee offered for the assignments may give rise to self-interest threat that may exceed the threshold allowed by ACCA's Code of Ethics. Safeguards will need to be implemented in the current year. All right, guys, iske liye I need you to go back to your concept, which says that your audit fees, if it is 15% of the entire revenue, sorry, just a minute. Yeah. So if it is of the entire revenue for 2 consecutive years, then this is a problem, right? But here we do not know that whether it was for 15%, right? So you will say, ma'am, it can be for 15%. We don't know. So this can be correct answer as well. But I say this statement. The client is a new audit client for you. It's not a previous audit client. So 2 years to hoga hi nahi na. They say that supposedly for this particular year, 15% you are earning. Next year you also are earning 15%. So just 2 consecutive years. But this is your first year of operation with the client. So it cannot be 2 consecutive years. Probably next year it can be a risk. It can be a threat. But right now it's not. All right. So this is what you're not going to consider before you accept the client, because it is a new client for you and the criteria says 2 consecutive years. Therefore, we are not going to consider this. I hope I'm making sense. So that is the reason your third answer is absolutely correct. I know a lot of students would get confused between this and this for sure, but this is not correct because of this criteria. All right. Let's move to the third question. I'm sorry. All right. Okay. Identify by clicking on the relevant boxes in the table below whether each statement is true or false. Okay. Let me copy paste this again so that I'm able to explain to you better. All right. Okay. If Bond and Company accept audit of Salvation Company, they will have to withdraw from the order of Compassion Company as there will be a conflict of interest. No, I don't think so. Of course, you cannot drop out of your competitors if there is a conflict of interest. You can have safeguards for this. Now, safeguards can be multiple, I would say. There can be safeguards. You can have separate audit engagement teams. You can have a proper bond wherein you're telling compassion company, you're telling salvation company that, hey, listen, I have a new client with me who is also in the same industry selling the same products. Are you okay if we audit them? So you can take a confirmation from them. So there can be multiple safeguards. This statement that you have to withdraw is not correct, because of course ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता that audit client can only have one type of client in one type of sector. Of course not. They cannot lose out on their revenue, right? So this is a false statement. All right. Bonded company will communicate with the previous auditor to know the areas of concern, if any, which they must consider before accepting the audit engagement. This point we just talked about in the previous answer as well. And this is 100% true statement that we will be communicating with the previous auditor to know what was the problem and why they are not getting reappointed by the company. Bond and company should accept the audit engagement only if it has been established that the preconditions of the audit are present. This is a very basic requirement of ACCA Code of Ethics. That you have to fulfill the preconditions. If your preconditions are not getting fulfilled, you cannot move ahead with the audit. All right. So this is false, true, and true. I hope we are clear with this. Let's move to the next question. All right. Mr. Smith was at a formal dinner. Mr. Smith was at a formal dinner with the partners of Bond and Company, where he informed the partners that while the additional services will be lucrative, okay, so the additional services, mainly these services that they are providing, these will be lucrative. Lucrative means big, significant. It's not lucrative. It is lucrative. It is significant. It is big for the company. So they are agreeing to it. All right. Red flag. A clean bill of health in audit would be crucial for bond company to obtain these additional assignments. Now they are saying that you also need to give us a clean bill of health. Basically, clean bill of health basically means that you are providing some sort of assurance to the client that you as an auditor are absolutely clean and you are not doing any malpractices, you're following the rules and regulations, etc., depending upon the industry. So that is clean bill of health. It is a kind of a phrase. All right. So now the question says, which of the following is a relevant ethical threat related to Mr. Smith's statement to be considered before accepting the audit engagement? Now, because it is lucrative, right? Because it is lucrative, if it is not review threat. Because now when we're talking about our corporation tax, it's when it is talking about the lucrativeness, it's not about the self-review. It is a self-interest threat, because fees is significant, fees is lucrative, right? You can accept any engagement if your fees is not lucrative. If you read your statements also from the study text, you would get to know that of course we can go into additional services to the client, but the fees should not be lucrative, and we should not be providing services such as corporation tax services, corporation we should not be representing the client, etc. So if I quickly tell you these four they have given us, which is professional competence and due care. Just a minute. Yeah. Professional competence and due care. This won't be, because this is not a threat, right? This is not a threat, of course. This is a principle. So elimination approach, not a threat, principle. Management threat is also not your ethical threat. It's not an ethical threat. It's a professional threat, right? Then we are now left with two threats. So we have crossed out, we have eliminated two options. One option is, just a minute, one option is this one, not there. This option, not there. Now they're asking us two things. Now you see, I know you people will be confused between these two, and many of you would think that because of this, it is a self-review threat. All right. But if you read the question really well, they have given you another statement over here. And this question pertains to this statement, that they will be doing the additional services, but they will be lucrative. So the additional services that they have informed that these will be lucrative. The person is on its own saying it will be lucrative for the auditor, and they also need a clean bill of health. So that definitely means it is a self-interest threat. If they have not written this statement and they simply referred to the corporation tax, then there would be a self-review threat. So again, technical. This is a technical question, guys. And in the exam, this is exactly how the examiner confuses you. Exactly like this. I always say, your audit, your section A paper in your audit comes always very, very tricky. The first question was also tricky. The third question was also tricky. All right. Let me finally explain to you what I mean by is. We are clear with that second and fourth cannot be the option, right? First and third may there would be a confusion, but because they are saying that they had a dinner and they said that the additional services which the auditor will be providing to the client, they are lucrative. Lucrative का मतलब होता है big, big in the terms of money, monetary terms. It would be big enough for them. It would be important for them, right? And they also need a clean bill of health. So these two say us it is a self-interest threat. Why? Because the company will then be diverted towards this lucrativeness because they will receive huge amount of fees, which is again mentioned over here as well. Fees will be significant. So we concluded when we were reading this, we concluded that this is self-review threat, the self-interest threat, right? So similarly, the when you're talking about like lucrativeness, they're talking about the fees for the same. All right. I hope we are okay with this. All right. Let's move to the next question. All right. A conflict of interest arises when an auditor provides a service in relation to two or more clients whose interest in respect of the matter are in conflict. Of course, we just now discussed that there will be some conflict of interest that can arise because of the same reason. In all of the cases of conflict of interest, the audit firm should take full disclosure to both parties and ask them both to confirm that they give permission in writing for the service to be provided. This is again what I exactly told you, that this can be one of the safeguards that they are applying, that they can take a confirmation before they accept the client so that both of those parties actually know what the auditor is doing. And this is very well stated in your ACCA Code of Ethics, Code of Conduct. All right. Okay. So if consent by both parties were provided, so technically, if the consent was provided by both of those parties to the auditor, guards are recommended by Code of Ethics to minimize the ethical threats. All right. So for this particular question, your knowledge on the Code of Ethics, what does this demand from us, has to be very strong. If you do not remember these, or if you don't know these by any chance, I think you won't be able to answer this question because this is not really related to the case. It's more so a generic question, a knowledge-based question. All right. So let's read. Having separate engagement teams who are provided with clear policies and procedures and maintaining confidentiality. I think this is very well what the Code of Ethics says, and then this we have already discussed right now, that we should have a separate audit engagement teams to, so that there is less conflict of interest being there, right? Having an appropriate reviewer who is not involved in providing either service to the clients to review the work performed. So again, you should have, because when you're having a separate engagement teams, of course, you will be having an appropriate reviewer also for the same, which is separate for both the clients, right? So that there is no conflict of interest between them, right? So that is, again, this is absolutely correct. Establishing separation of confidential information by physically and electronically. This is again a feature of Code of Conduct, which says that there should be confidentiality of the information of client A and client B. Of course, you know the client A, when they're saying that, when they're providing you the consent that yes, you can appear for the exam, they would appreciate if, of course, you don't tell the content or tell the information or tell the data of one client to the other. Of course, right, there will be some conflict of interest. For example, I am company A and this is company B. I am launching a new product which is again a product which B can also launch. So if by any chance the auditor only says this product, that tells B about this product, there can be issues and there can be major competition, decline of sales, they can copy the product, etc. So of course you should have confidential information physically and electronically both. And the last one says a post-issuance review to be carried for both the clients by an external accountant or regulatory body. Now, this is not a mandate under code of ethics. If you're doing it, it's good, but even if you ignore it, if even if you do not do it, it's absolutely fine. It does not matter. So as per me, answer 1, 2, and 3 makes complete sense. Out of these, if you see one or the other, because we know 1, 2, and 3 is complete fine, we don't have any option for all of the above. So again, you have to be a little careful with these things. That again, the fourth one, all of the above is not the option over here, and 1, 2, and 3 is definitely the answer. So therefore, by elimination method as well and conceptual clarity as well, we came to the conclusion that 1, 2, and 3 are the correct answer. So I hope this case study was helpful for you. The debrief was helpful for you. Do let me know if you have any doubts, any questions in relation to this case study. I'll see you in the next case study debrief.